Good morning, students. Welcome to the second class of biology on the chapter Cell, the fundamental unit of life. So, in the previous class, I have shown you a slide which was having the different kinds of cells from the human body. So, let's talk a little bit more on the same slide. Now, here you can see the different cells from the human body are shown over here. So actually the purpose of showing it is to say that cells can be of different shapes and sizes. So the shape of the cell is often related to the work, the function that it performs. For example, let us take the example of this smooth muscle cell. You can see they are long and contractile. They help in the movement of the bones. Let us talk about the blood cell. These blood cells are circular, biconcave. If we talk about the RBC, so they can easily pass or move through the small spaces. And if we talk about the WBC, they are amoeboid with pseudopodia to squeeze out through the capillary walls. If we talk about the nerve cell, you can see that they are long, and they are long basically to conduct nerve impulses to distant parts of the body and to the brain. Then if we talk about the bone cell, you can see that it is stellate with the rays coming out from all the sides. The shape is actually the stellate shape. So it has to provide lot of strength to the body. Then if we talk about the fat cell, you can see it is very big and it has to store lot of fat, and that is why this kind of a structure. Then the ovum, which is the egg cell, and the sperm cell is shaped in this way in the form of a worm as it has to move. So you can see the shape of the cell is dependent on the function that it's going to perform. Now, some cells can change their shapes, amoeba, WBC, but plant and animal cells, mostly they have fixed shapes. Now, the smallest cell is the PPLO, mycoplasma, and the largest cell is the ostrich egg. The longest cell is your nerve cell. So, these are few things, exceptions, or we can say some examples that you must always remember in your life. And the size of a cell is usually measured in this micrometer, or micron. And what is it? It is actually 1/1000th of a millimeter. Now let us proceed to the next slide. In this slide you can see the picture of Robert Hooke. He was the one who first discovered the cell, that is in 1665, and he observed a thin slice of cork under his self-designed microscope, and this cork actually resembled the structure of a honeycomb consisting of small compartments, and he named these small compartments as cells. Now in this slide you can see the microscope that was designed by Robert Hooke, and the dead cork cells seen by Robert Hooke through his microscope. So you can see these hexagonal honeycomb-like structure. So now we should know that the word cell is actually derived from the Latin word cellula, which means a little room. Next, we have the microscope that was designed by Leeuwenhoek. He was a Dutch microscopist, and he made an improved version of the microscope. But by observing under his microscope, he discovered in 1674 the free cells in the form of bacteria. So first in 1665, Robert Hooke observed the cells in the cork, and then in the year 1674, Leeuwenhoek found the free cells in the form of bacteria, and his improved version of microscope you can see over here. I have just picked up this picture. So by observing under the microscope, what was the conclusion? While examining the thin slice of cork by Robert Hooke, he saw that the structure was very much similar to a honeycomb consisting of small little compartments. And what is a cork? You should know about that. It is a substance which comes from the bark of a tree. So that cork he observed under his microscope. I am talking about Robert Hooke, and then he called these small compartments as the cell. Then let us talk a bit about the discovery of electron microscope. You can see in this picture how the electron microscope looks, and I have already given you a detail about this electron microscope when I was talking about the different types of microscopes available in the lab. With the discovery of the microscope in the year 1940, it was possible for us to observe and understand the complex structure, the ultrastructure, the internal structure of the cell and its various organelles. So the first electron microscope was designed by Noll and Ruska from Germany. Then came the cell theory. And what was the cell theory? The cell theory was that all plants and animals are composed of cells, and that the cell is the basic unit of life. This was presented by two biologists, Schedon and Schwann. The cell theory was further expanded by Virchow by suggesting that all cells arise from pre-existing cells. The various postulates of the cell theory are as follows. All organisms are composed of cells and cell products, that is, their secretions. All metabolic reactions take place in the cells. Thus, cells are the structural and the functional unit of life. Cells arise from pre-existing cells only. No cell can originate spontaneously, but comes into being only by division of already existing cells. And every organism starts its life as a single cell. So these were the various postulates of cell theory. Now in 1831, these are some of the facts that we should remember. In 1831, a Scottish botanist, that is Robert Brown, he discovered and named the nucleus in plant cells. Then J.E. Purkinje, a Czech animal physiologist, in 1839 gave the term protoplasm for the living fluid substance present inside the cell. Now then it was Haeckel who established that the nucleus was responsible for storing and transmitting the hereditary characters. A cell is the basic structural and functional unit of living organisms. A cell is made up of life, giving substances called protoplasm. And what is protoplasm? It is an aggregate of molecules of various chemicals such as water, ions, salts, and organic molecules. Actually, the organic molecules of protoplasm are the proteins, carbohydrates, fats, nucleic acids like DNA, RNA, etc. So if we talk about what are the basic characteristics of a cell, then we must say that the cells contain a set of genes, they contain a limiting membrane, and they contain a metabolic machinery. So all living organisms that are present on this earth can be classified into two types. They can be non-cellular organisms or they can be cellular organisms. So let us first talk about what are these non-cellular organisms. These are the organisms that do not contain any cell in their body organization. For example, the viruses. We all know that viruses lack membrane and hence they do not show the characteristics of life until they enter the living body to use its cellular machinery to reproduce. Then we talk about the cellular organisms. These are those organisms which contain either one or many cells in their bodies. We have the bacteria, the plants, animals, any kind of an organism that has a cell. Cellular organisms can be of two types, mainly the prokaryotes and the eukaryotes. Prokaryotes examples can be your bacteria, cyanobacteria, etc. Eukaryotes can be any advanced organism, could be a plant or an animal. Now let us talk about the basic characteristics of a prokaryotic and a eukaryotic organism. In this slide you can see the prokaryotic cells, how they look like. Basically they are primitive. Their structure you can see, they contain ribosomes. There is a capsule, a surrounding wall. They have a cell wall, plasma membrane and the nucleoid region. Nucleoid region is the one which is representing a nucleus like region, and they do have locomotory organs. So what are these prokaryotic cells? They are the ones which are less complex. They are unicellular. They do not have a nucleus and most of them have a cell wall surrounding the cell membrane. They usually include the bacteria, the blue-green bacteria, etc. This is the structure of a eukaryotic cell, a full-fledged, well-developed, typical cell, which is a eukaryotic cell. So here you can see all the structures, the internal structures of the cell is labeled. So what is the characteristic? They are more complex than the prokaryotic cells. They include both multicellular and unicellular organisms, and they do have a true nucleus. Organelles are internal structures in the cells that perform the specific functions. As you have already seen, they have been labeled like your endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi body, vacuoles, plastids in case of plant cells, etc. Eukaryotes include plant cell, animal cells, fungi, algae, protists, etc. Now we are in a position to differentiate between the prokaryotes and the eukaryotes. Prokaryotes are very small in size and they lack an organized nucleus. A single DNA molecule is present suspended in the cytoplasm and nucleolus is absent. Membrane-bound cell organelles are also absent. Typical vacuoles are absent. Cell division, that is mitosis, does not take place. Whereas in case of eukaryotes, they are larger in size compared to the prokaryotes. They have a well-organized nucleus with all the components, nuclear envelope, nucleolus, and several DNA molecules are present. Membrane-bound cell organelles are also present. Typical vacuoles are present and mitotic process is also present. Now here is a picture of unicellular organisms. Amoeba, Chlamydomonas, these are the examples of unicellular organisms where a single cell represents the entire organism. Here is a picture of multicellular organisms. That means the body of the organism has got multiple number of cells. So you all have formed an idea about the different kinds of cells and the different shapes of the cells and how their discovery has happened, and also how the different scientists have contributed towards the discovery of the cell. That's all for today. Thank you.